All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's land this plane on positioning and working the principle and fence lines and and what you would call it. See, now I'm back in the more traditional business casual. My shirt's tucked in, it's buttoned up, but where am I going to hide a gun, right? Now, this I could definitely show up and look like corporate HR. Maybe unroll my sleeves, button down my collar like it's supposed to be. But where's my gun? Where's it hidden? So that's the problem that you run into on those types of details. But anyways, I just sent you guys a text about the possible protest and stuff. So, let's go ahead and try to finish this stuff because in the next 72 hours, you very well could find yourself in it. So let's talk about, let's go ahead and talk about fence lines. Right? Fence lines and receiving lines. I'm going to talk about receiving lines first, real quick, because I'm going to get it out of the way. Receiving lines is definitely something you're going to do. A receiving line is, think of an autograph signing, a book signing, both of which we'll do pretty regularly. Think of Juicy J. He's a rapper. He's got a concert. You go to the hotel. You pick him up. You're in a two-car motorcade. You roll. It's a two-man detail. You don't even ride with Juicy. Juicy's in the front in his Escalade with his driver and his manager and whoever else he's got with him. You and your partner follow behind. You pull up behind the Fillmore in Silver Spring. There's an RV park, but there's a parking lot here. Everyone's going to park right there. There's the stage entrance to the back of the building to the Fillmore. That's where Juicy's walking in. You park. You do whatever kind of arrival you do. That's actually going to be a weak side arrival probably, and there's before the concert, there's 100 white teenagers that have paid money to get their picture taken with Mr. Juicy. And so it's going to be a receiving line. Juicy's going to get out. He's going to go into his RV. At some point, they're going to have these 100 people that have paid to have their pictures taken with Juicy are going to go each one at a time into the RV. One of you's probably, it's a two-man detail. One of you's probably going to be in the RV. One of you might be out by the door. Said kids are going to walk in, hand their cell phone to the producer, stand next to Juicy, pose, and walk out. It's a receiving line. Right. Book signing, you're at Barnes & Noble. There's a table set up. People are lined up with their books. Come up, book signing. Right. Maybe you have an author that wrote a book who's on some kind of panel discussion. You're there for the whole thing. At the end of the discussion, they set up a table in the corner. Everyone comes up, brings the books that they were given or bought, gets the author to sign it. Hey, how you doing? How's your kids? Blah, blah, blah. Move on. We've done this with CNN people with talent that write books at the museum. Again, it was a similar setup there with just this high top table. She was just standing next to the table. People are walking up, sign the book, whatever. So the question becomes, and I'm not even going to draw this up or anything else because you're probably not going to be on this if you haven't done it before and whatever. But it's a simple concept, and it does. I will draw it up. I mean, let's say your talent's there. The line of people are right here. Just 2 seconds, right? I was going to tell you guys a book. Here's a book. Get a book. And this has a whole Gavin DeBecker, just 2 seconds. It's a huge book, but this has a whole diagram drawn up on like a book signing of how you should line the people up. And I don't know where that diagram is, but like he's got a whole, like it's almost a 5-man detail. As a matter of fact, it's right here. I believe that this is it. It's right here. Right? So you've got, this is your crowd of people and how they're lining them up. Your talent is sitting at this table. He's got his security guys marked, so I think this is a 5-man detail. Here was your 2-car motorcade out front. You still got your one guy pulling vehicle security, and you have your other guys positioned where they're positioned, right? Get this book. This book has like 1,400 assassination attempts. It analyzes them. It breaks everything down scientifically. It talks about time and distance, and it's some drills that Gavin DeBecker does in their training about if the bad guy's 7 foot apart and you're 7 foot here, and this is how long this takes to happen and all that stuff. It's a good book. Get it. Just 2 seconds. I'm not going to go into that detail. You're by yourself. You're with someone who's signing books. Here's the person that's signing books. He's probably got his assistant, his handler is standing wherever they're standing, wherever they want to stand, kissing hands, shaking babies, doing whatever they're doing. Where do you stand? And it just depends. It depends. It depends on where are you doing this. Is it as a Barnes and Noble, or was this at the museum at a private event where only CNN invited guests are coming to? Is it for this? I did a book for a guy who wrote a security for a guy who wrote a book about like the Israeli Mossad or whatever you want to call them, so this was a private event. I'd have tickets to get into it. I don't need to be right up on the guy. Like, we don't need a 5-man detail where we're here and we're here and we're here and we're watching hands and we're ready to cover an evac and we got an emergency exit planned. We don't have all that. Not that that's not the right way to do it, but did we need it? We did our threat analysis. We don't really feel like the threat and the risk is that high, so we're doing what we're doing. And I'm probably not going to be right up on top of this person. Right now, I might be back here. I'm just hanging around. I'm just looking calm. I'm looking cool. I'm trying not to look like I'm a bodyguard and whatever. I'm close enough. I'm 7-8 feet apart. I could be there pretty quick. I'm keeping an eye on the crowd, like who's in line, is anyone acting suspicious, not making eye contact, looking down, hands in pocket, got a backpack on, dressed for winter when it's summer. I'm looking at all the normal stuff you would be looking at, right? Mostly I'm looking at their behavior. Are they acting like they're ready to do something? Do they look like they're ready to do something? Right? And if you don't know what that stuff is, you got a whole slew of training you need to go through. So you're going to be wherever you're going to be. But this is a receiving line, and there's you might have 2, you might have 3 people. Your lead agent is going to work that out. I'm definitely not just going to put you in something like that and you've never done it. But understand the concept, because if you are there for the first time and your lead agent, says you're going to stand there, if your lead agent tells you to, if your lead agent is right here, and your lead agent says, I want one of you right here, and your lead agent says, there's an emergency door right here, and I want one of you right here, I want you to have an idea of what he probably wants you to do, right? And if you're up here, you're probably looking at these folks. You're really watching the line. Is anyone acting funny in the line? Right? Does anyone look like they're holding the gun and ready to pull their gun out? Right? And this guy's looking right here. The main guy's focused on, right, the woman who's signing the books, and you're focused on what do you think you should do. You're just kind of, here's the main entrance, and so you're over here. You're making sure at all times our emergency evac is ready to go, and you're watching the rest of the crowd, right? So just have an idea of probably what your area of responsibility would be. And that's a receiving line. And if you looked at that picture real quick, you see how they had it all roped off. They had the emergency route planned out, and they had each guy in each position, and they did have people along that roped off line as the crowd came roped down, and each one of them was again, you're looking at the behavior of the people in the crowd. That's all you're doing, right? You're listening too, because they might be saying something. So that's that on the receiving line. I'm not going to say too much else about it. Let's talk about a fence line. A fence line, you will see in media details. A fence line, in the grand scheme of things, right? Think this is some type of barricade. It's a rope. It's a jersey wall. It's whatever it is. And there's a whole crowd of people behind it. And here's the President of the United States, right? It's Barack Obama. And he's walking down there and he's shaking hands and kissing babies. Talk about hope and change. Right. So that's a fence line, and that's obviously it's a governor, it's a senator, whatever. In the press, we do as well. Think about it. You could also do this. Think of red carpets, right? I mean, if you got a red carpet and everyone's getting dropped off right here, you only have 2 ropes, and you have fans and paparazzi, and you have whatever you have, and the celebrities going from one side to the other, signing autographs and doing everything. You've got 2 fence lines that you're working. And we'll do these too. We did security for movie screenings or whatever, and Tom Hanks and a bunch of the other actors. What was that movie, The Post or whatever, the one about the newspaper? We had some of the celebrities there, and we were also security for the overall event. So guys are working this fence line, right? You're there. This is a sidewalk. So the public wants to come up there and they get an attitude if they can't. All of these Tom Hanks, all these other movie stars are getting out of their limos right here. A bunch of business people were there too. Jeff Bezos was there with his four-man Gavin DeBecker team. What's the billionaire guy that always rides around in a is it Soros or the other guy? Not Soros. The other guy that everyone thinks has some massive detail, but he doesn't. We actually we boxed up and walked him out because paparazzis were harassing him. So we were actually handling this area, and we had like a guy here and a guy here, and so you're kind of watching this fence line as these celebrities are going over and signing autographs and paparazzi. I don't know. They call the ones that are trying to take pictures because they get paid for these pictures. They're aggressive as shit. They're annoying. But let's talk about it in the sense that you might see it in a couple of days. You've got a protest, you've got a riot, you've got a rally, you've got a barricade right here. You've got the crowd formed up, and you have the reporter, you got the cameraman, you got your producer, and they're walking down this fence line, and they're working the fence line. He's walking down interviewing the people. Why does America suck? We always knew America sucked, right? And this is what you may very well see. Now, let's go back to big picture. Let's go back to 8-man K-Diamond. If I wanted to be in my 8-man K-Diamond, boom, 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 boom. Got our well back here. Let's take these two dudes out. We just got our, well, we actually should have left those guys in there, but whatever. You've got your AIC is probably going to be right here because your AIC is always right there. You're probably going to have a person right here. You're going to have a person right here. This person's looking at hands. This person's looking at hands. This person's looking at hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Beautiful. This guy's got this area. This guy's got this area. Got the rear as always. And these two people are in the crowd, working the crowd. Right? Checking the crowd, checking hands. They're probably closer up, right? This isn't to scale, but there's your 8-man K-Diamond. We don't work in 8-man K-Diamonds because we're not cool like that. We're not overseas. We're not real operators. We're wannabes. So what we're doing, matter of fact, let's take a real incident. Let me break this down to an absolute real incident that's going to cover a lot of the shit we talked about, including the thing that Mark brought up the other day. Mark's a retired police officer. Mark's a squared away guy. Mark said, well, who am I working with? I'm going to show up to these riots, these dynamic situations where things happen like that. And I don't know what the background is or what the training of who I'm working with. And we've never even met each other. And that's one of the reasons why we had this phone call and we're doing this video. This happens. And that's a real thing, right? For those of you, one of you, I know Steven went to EPI. When I went to EPI, they had us read this thing, this PhD level thesis on an incident of the Man Gulch fire. The smoke jumpers that jump in to fight these fires. This is back in the 20s, 30s. This is kind of the same thing Mark's talking about. At that particular time, these guys didn't know each other. These teams were just formed together as these forest fires broke out. And most of them were ex-military because they're getting parachuted in or fast roped in or however they're getting in. They wanted people that had these jump training or whatever. But then they get dropped in and they go fight this fire. And this fire was supposed to be what they call a 4 o'clock fire, right? It was a small fire that they were going to have put out by 4 o'clock. And you could Google it. Google the breakdown of sense making and Man Gulch fire or something like that. You'll find this paper. It's a wordy read, but like sift through the smart guy stuff, and it's a decent read for what we do for a living. But it was just that. It was what Mark was talking about. You're in dangerous, dynamic situations with people you don't know. And in one sense, certainly the training matters because at least you know if the guy's high speed and been there before, you're good. But even then, you don't know each other, so you don't necessarily trust each other, and your training was different. You don't know what each other are going to do. The Man Gulch fire, the fire turns, they're getting overrun. The team leader who was new, and no one knew this guy, he basically says, we're gonna clear burn around us. So the fire goes by us. Now that's standard protocol. In 1920 or 30 or 40, when it happened, it wasn't. It's standard protocol now because of this guy and because of this incident. back then it wasn't standard protocol. So what his 11-man team heard was, you want us to set ourselves on fire to save ourselves? We don't, this guy's crazy. We don't give a shit what his title is. This guy's nuts. And they ignored him. I think either everyone or all, but maybe the lieutenant. But not even the lieutenant knew him. Or I don't know if he was a lieutenant, but the second, the second guy in charge. And the lieutenant didn't know the rest of it, and all the guys didn't know each other. It was exactly what Mark was talking about. And everyone died except for the leader. Right? He clear burned around himself. He lived. That's now standard procedure. And the rest of the team kept on trying to truck away from the fire, and they got overtaken by this forest fire, and they're all dead. So I rambled on. I don't know why I even talked about that. Oh, I've got an example that encompasses all this. Baltimore riots. Tuesday morning. Saturday was the first little pop-off downtown around the stadium. They started at City Hall, and then they decided they were going to go disrupt the downtown people and blah, 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 blah. Sunday, nothing really Sunday, nothing really happened. Monday night, kids get out of Douglas MacArthur, yada, yada, yada. They go over to the mall. CNN guy gets his ass whooped. Cars get set on fire, right? We're rioting. City's on fire now, right? Tuesday morning, I'm a vendor of Pinkerton's at the time. I had not done any work for Pinkerton in a couple of years. I was down in Texas for a while, running security for an oil company. I'm getting phone calls to cover some of the 7-Elevens that got hit. We covered 3 7-Elevens. We put some armed guys in one of the high rises downtown in case that got overrun. And I think, I bet you Pinkerton needs help. I get on the phone. I call Bill Cotton, who's the operations manager at Pinkerton at the time. He's like, bring everybody you got. Bring them now. So that's exactly what we do. I don't really have about 10 guys. I was small at that time. I was just getting back into it at that time. But I did round up 10 guys. So he says, well, listen, right now I need 2 people at North and Penn for Lester Holt, NBC Lester Holt's crew. I've got 1 guy with him. I need 2 people with him, right? Aside from that, bring everyone you have, send them to the Renaissance every morning. They're on the clock as soon as they get there. Tell them to be there 6 o'clock. As crews leave the Renaissance Hotel, everything was kind of being based out of the Renaissance. Most of the news crews were staying there. National Guard was there, whatever. We'll send them out, right? Ambiguity, what we talked about, right? It's chaos, right? I said, well, okay, yeah. I'll round up some guys for tomorrow morning. Right now, today, I don't know how much I can do for you, but I am on my way to North and Penn. And I'm going to try to round up 1 more, but at least I'm on my way to North and Penn, guaranteed. There had been a guy contacting me. His name was Scott. It's not the Scott that's on here. He had his own agency license manager. He essentially was an agency holder. And he had been contacting me about work, and he had sent me his resume. He was trying to get work. And on his resume, it said that he worked for Pinkerton. So... or maybe I talked to this guy on the phone, but either way, I knew that he was supposedly had worked for Pinkerton. He had been a vendor for Pinkerton, right? So I asked Bill about him. I said, hey, do you know Scott so-and-so? Bill's like, yeah, I know him. Yeah, you can, so because maybe he's bugging me for work. He actually just called me yesterday. Maybe I can bring him with me today. And Bill's like, oh yeah, he's all right. He's like, he's done work for me before. He's like, I mean, if he's gonna be with you, I got no problem with him. He's like, but I'm just warning you about him. He doesn't know when to keep his mouth shut. Like he pisses clients off. So long term, I'm warning you about him. But yeah, he's gonna be with you in a riot. He's done press crew before. He's not brand new to it. So yeah. So I'm like, okay. I give Scott a call. Scott's like, yeah, I'm on my way. Scott meets me up. We actually ride together, and we go to North and Penn. All right. So, North, and this is Pennsylvania Avenue. This is the CVS they set on fire. This is like a beauty store that they did whatever they did to. I don't think they didn't really set that on fire, but they looted it and kicked in the door, whatever. This is actually I believe this building is I think it's like an old age home, but it's a secure building. The door is locked. I think there's also a Baltimore City community outreach kind of post in there that sometimes there's a Baltimore City police officer there. But either way, it's secure. There's definitely a security guard in there, and that might have been a Baltimore City. I don't know. this is kind of just a sidewalk, open sidewalk area, right? The CVS sits back. It's not right up on North Avenue. Most of the rest of the buildings and row houses are right up to North Avenue. This is always a bad corner. There's a methadone clinic over here. There's a bus stop here. There's always bad activity going on over here. It's North and Penn. Right? I don't need to say any more than that for anyone who's driven through Baltimore. So this road is blocked, right? You can't drive down North. You can't drive down Penn. We come up 83 and we get off on North, and at some point we can't drive anymore. So right, this ambiguity thing. You're now you're problem solvers, right? You ain't security guards. You ain't law enforcement. You ain't operators. You're problem solvers, right? This is blocked. I don't call Bill Cotton and tell him what do I do. I figure it out. We find a detour. I get on Penn. I come down. Penn is really only blocked. Pennsylvania Avenue is really only blocked maybe 1 block or 2 blocks up. I see the SAT trucks, so I already knew where I was supposed to be. But anyways, I park. I actually park on this side of the street. But we get out. There's a NYPD, retired NYPD that we're meeting up with. He's already with the team, and I have his number, and I have our point of contact, our POC's number with the news crew. It probably was the producer. Sometimes it's the talent. It is whoever it is. That's your point of contact. I call them. They don't answer. Right? They're working. This is going to happen a lot with the press. I send them a text. Hey, I'm Richard. I'm from Pinkerton. We're here. All is safe. I don't say that. Don't say that shit. Just I'm Richard. I'm with Pinkerton. I'm here. All right, look. So you blah 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 blah. So they don't answer. I think I walked over to the SAT truck. Where's the NBC SAT truck? Because there's going to be Fox satellite trucks. There's going to be NBC. There might be ABC. ABC's not outlawed. The ABC's not national, right? We're usually national press, right? Telemundo, Uno, CNN, Russian News Network, whatever the case may be. I find the NBC truck. I say, hey, where's Lester Holt at? And he ultimately tells me that Lester Holt was over here. This is a police line. This is all the press is back here. These are their SAT trucks. This is literally police officers in riot gear. At this point, they are still lined up here. I think the police officers were also lined up against this wall around here. And I believe they may have been lined up across this street and at some point this street. They have this lined off. Now, they're not over here. Matter of fact, they were definitely right here. I don't think they were right here, but I think this was just a barricade, right? And the police may have been out in the middle of the street, but this was a barricade. So Lester Holt and his news crew, which was a camera guy named Don from New York and a producer, light-skinned black guy that was also from New York. The black guy ended up getting into a fight. We actually literally had to cover and their van was right here. We had to cover and evac them. Fight broke out right here. We covered and evac them, threw them in our van. Myself, and this was a different day, a guy named Zach was working with me. It was only 2 of us. We're on each door. We're running the fenders through the intersection, right? And I don't know what cops think running the fender, because I told this one time to a SWAT team guy, and he's like, that's not what running the fenders mean. But in EP work, running the fenders, like you think of the Secret Service running next to the president's limousine, right? Think of Kennedy, right? You're driving down the street right before he got shot, but you Secret Service are running the fenders. That's what running the fenders mean. I don't know what police mean by running. But anyways, obviously that's not what they mean, because I told that story and he's like, you don't know what running the fenders is. No, you don't know what running the fenders is. But anyways, let me get back on track. Tells us that they're over here. Again, I'm off scale. But so, what's his name? Lester Holt is here, and he's working this fence line. His cameraman is shooting him. There's a producer somewhere in this. I really don't know where the producer was standing. The rioters are there. They're yelling. There's helicopters in the air. Foxtrots flying around. This is the Baltimore City Police Department. This is an unlawful gathering. Disperse for 3 days, right? News helicopters are flying around. Crowd. I think the crowd's over here. Crowd's over here. This big crowd, right? And so he's working the fence line. He's walking down. He's interviewing these people, literally working a fence line. if I remember this correctly, right? So now here we are back to what more I don't know. Scott never worked with Scott. I was told Scott was okay and he worked news crews before. Just keep him on a short leash because he's got a big mouth. All right. This guy, I was told that's already there is a retired NYPD and he was a homicide detective. So, right, the smartest people become homicide detectives, right? I mean, the dumb detectives are the vice guys, right? So I figure if nothing else, this is a smart dude. This is a sharp guy. And he's from New York, a legit police department. He probably got some anti-terrorism stuff. Might have been on a dignitary protection squad. This is a guy that knows what he's doing. This is all I know, though, right? And this is kind of like what Mark's talking about. Who the heck am I working with, right? And what are they going to do and know and everything else? I want to say that that NYPD was like in the old faithful position. This was 6 years ago, right? I mean, when the riots, 6 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever it was. And you shouldn't be in that position with the press because you're in the shot if you're in that position. So you usually would not stand behind the talent, right, in any type of a filming thing because you're in the shot. But I do feel like if I remember this correctly, that's where he was. And I'm sure that the press didn't care because, hey, the CNN guy just got his ass whipped last night. Like, they're scared, right? They're scared. So they're not worried about you being in your shot at this point. I want to say that's where he was. So we're walking across the street, right? And all this is going through my head, right? Where am I going to stand? This is a fence line. Oh, there's the security guy. There's the talent. There's the cameraman. They're working the fence line. Where do I want to stand? Where should Scott stand? This is all the stuff that you're going to be thinking about. But there's no time to plan, right? We're not going to call time out. We're not going to have a meeting. We're not going to do a briefing. We're not going to write it all out and do a walkthrough and do a tabletop. We're just going to do it. And so I decide that I'm going to stand right here. Now think about, we just drew up that 8-man K-diamond, right? And how someone would be in the crowd and someone's over here and someone, we don't have all that. We have 3 people, right? So, I mean, I decide I'm going to stand right here. Why? Because that's the easiest position, and I'm lazy at the end of the day, right? If Scott knows what he's doing, and I'm going to bump this producer out of it, because I really don't even know where he was, but we do have a cameraman, we do have the talent, we do have the cameraman. A very common place for you to stand when the crew is working is behind the cameraman for multiple reasons. Now you're close because these people this camera is 2 feet from the talent's face. If I'm right by the cameraman, I could reach out and snatch the talent, right? And you also stand behind the cameraman because as they walk down this fence line, this barricade, interviewing these people, the cameraman's backing up, and that's always going to be the case. If they're in a parade, if they're in a march, if he's just walking and talking, the cameraman's backing up. So you get behind the cameraman and you walk, and you make sure the cameraman doesn't trip over anyone. And the cameraman's going to have a backpack on, a live view backpack. If you want to be real high speed, you could go ahead and grab a hold of that live view, and I got you, baby. And he's going to think you're a serious professional now, right? You know what you're doing, and you can back up with this guy, and you're going to make sure he doesn't trip. Obviously, you're also 360. You got your eyes. You're looking at everyone, and and that's a very squared away. And that's a very usual place you're going to be, right? And it's very common for you to go ahead and at least let the camera you. Put your hand on that back, especially if you're in a heavy crowd. If you're not in a heavy crowd, you don't have to worry about that. But if you're in a heavy crowd and you're almost making a hole for the cameraman, you can definitely grab that live view. He's going to feel you grab that live view. And that way, when you need him to stop, you just stop him, right? Because he's not going to be able to hear you. So you just stop him. So I stand here. Now, I want Scott. You already know where I want Scott to be because I've showed you with the 8-man K-diamond, right? You already know where I want Scott, right? But when it was 8-man, we had a guy here looking at these hands. We had another guy right there looking at that hands. This second guy could have been back here if we wanted him. He could have been as close as far as we wanted him. It would be based on our risk threat assessment, right? But I want Scott over here, right? Obviously. Anyone who's ever worked a press team. First of all, this is a position, someone absolutely 100%, that should have been a starting position, and it's open. Right? I stand here because I want to be lazy. I'm hoping Scott goes over here. NYPD's right there. And he literally was like, I've never been so happy to see backup in my life. Right? This is like a 58-year-old white guy. You know, and I mean, this is a racially charged. This is a riot. You know, I mean, people. I mean, I had rocks thrown at my truck. You know, you cracker ass bitch. I mean, it was fun times. It was fun times. But you know, Scott just stands next to me, literally just stood right next to me. And all the noise, I don't want to say anything to him. Like at first, I thought maybe this dude's just orienting, right? The OODA loop, right? He's observing, he's orienting, he's getting ready to decide and go where the hell he's supposed to be, right? He's getting ready to decide and act. No, Scott just stands there. So eventually, and when I say eventually, I don't know, 30 seconds, 45 seconds, 1 minute, I point, right? Now I'm looking like Peyton Manning out there. I'm pointing, right? I point, you know, and so I'm like, you know, go over there. Right? Scott really can't hear me probably, but I point, I'm like, go over there. So Scott does kind of follow instructions and he goes over there, but now he's just standing and he's looking at me. Like he's literally looking at me. Now, what did I just say in the last video, right? You shouldn't be looking at me. You're not protecting me. You shouldn't be looking at the talent, right? The security guy is always the guy that's looking somewhere else, right? He's staring off into the distance. You don't even know what he's looking at. Look, he's daydreaming. She work is coming. His phone is blowing up. All right. Let's finish this up. So you know, I really want Scott to be right here. He's watching the cameraman back up, making sure no one's tripping him, making sure no one's slapping the cameraman in the back of the head, grabbing the cameraman's camera. He's looking at hands, right? In the grand scheme of things, he'd be watching those hands that were reaching out to shake the president's hands. But now he's not. He's just looking, making sure no one's got a gun, a knife, a rock. Looks like he's getting ready to throw something. Pepper spray. These people love to pepper spray you. You know, he's looking at hands. NYPD's back here in Old Faithful. NYPD could move it, and I actually don't think he was in the shot. I really think he was just maybe actually canned over a little bit. The camera's so close at that point that if this is the talent, this is the camera. If NYPD is just like right here, like he's probably not in the shot. But he's over here, and he should be looking at hands too. Kind of should be over there. And so, you know, we worked that fence line. He did his interview. Everything was fine, but that's how fast you could find yourself into a situation, working with three people that you don't know, you know, a couple of someone that doesn't really know what they're doing. Right? We finished this up. I got to speed this up because I know you guys are bored of listening to me. We come back over here. Now we're in the safe zone. This is a police line. This is the bathroom everybody's using in a locked door. SAT trucks. We come over here. They go. The news crew gets in their trucks. They do whatever they do in their trucks. We're standing around smoking and joking. I'm telling Scott. I'm realizing Scott doesn't know what's going on. And I'm like, hey, listen, Scott, you're not here to protect me, Dan. Don't stand next to me, right? 360 degrees around the principal. And that's all it's going to be. You know, maybe I'm not going to try to teach you any formations because it's not that important. But if I want you to move, I'll point. You go over there. And if I point over there, common sense should tell you what your area of responsibility just became as far as what area, what corner you're watching, right? It's about as down and dirty as it's going to be in the middle of it all. At some point, I can tell you this, I'm going to keep this short. At some point, the issue came up with NYPD and the principal. The principal went to this bathroom right here, and NYPD was right on his ass. And Lester Holt ended up complaining about that. And he just said something. Either he did or he probably didn't because Lester Holt's not that talkative. He's not friendly. And he probably told his producer, tell that guy to stop standing close to me. And the producer probably said, you're standing too close to him. And I didn't know about this at the time. Later on, we're in the middle of the street. The whole crowd busts down this barricade. We're in the middle of the street. The Baltimore City's doing the stomp and drag, right? He get lining up to start doing the stomp and drag and come clear the street. Lester Holt, we're running out here in the rioters, interviewing them, and NYPD is like a solid 11 foot behind Lester. And now myself and Scott are flanking it because Lester's the body man in my mind, and he's not even up there. And Lester ends up complaining about that, and NYPD comes to me The next morning, we're on the same detail, and he comes to me and he's like, this guy's an asshole. You know what this guy wants? And I'm not saying anything. I know, this dude's a retired police officer from New York. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you should know more than me. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna say something to you unless you ask me or anything. So I mean, he comes, and I'm not in charge then either, right? I'm in charge of Scott. I'm not in charge of this guy. I'm not a manager for Pinkerton. I'm not in charge of anybody but myself and my guys. And so, he comes up to me. He's like, I'm getting ready to walk off this detail. Because I was like, you want me to be honest with you? He's like, yeah, because I'm getting ready to walk off this. This guy's an asshole. Because we say good morning, and he didn't even say good morning. He gives us a dirty look. I mean, there's other stuff to it too. But I'm like, look, if you want me to be honest with you, you don't look like you know what you're doing. Not when it comes to position in relation to principle. The most important thing this is the thing you're going to get judged on. This is the thing that leaves the impression, blah, blah, blah. I mean, Lester was right. He doesn't need you on his ass when he's going to the bathroom right here. There is a line of police officers in full battle fucking gear right here. You don't need to be right on his ass. I'm not saying don't walk to the bathroom with him, but you could have been 10, 15 feet behind him. And you don't need to go through that secure door and go stand behind him, in the low ready behind the urinal while he pees. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. You can walk over here, watch him go into the bathroom. This is a secure thing. There ain't no homeless people in that bathroom. I mean, if you want to go 100%, if I was worried about it, I'd let him go through the door. I'd let him go into the bathroom, and then I'd mosey in and I'd listen outside the bathroom just in case I heard it. Like if I was really in the back of my mind, well, what if anything could happen? And then, and if I didn't hear any noise as he came out, I just try to hope he didn't see me, or I just go into the bathroom as if I just accidentally had to go to the bathroom too, right? Like that's how I would work that, right? But you don't need, even if there was a bad guy right here and you were worried about this bad guy getting past the police officer, you still don't need, this is 10, 15 yards. Like this is a big cutout area right here. Like you still don't need to be right behind him. How far do you have to beat this bad guy to this guy? This far back, right? I mean, if you see him take off running and he gets past the cops, I mean, you know how old you are, you know how fast you run, but you just need to beat this bad guy to him. That's it. You don't need to be right on top of him. But yet at the same time, later on, he's in the middle of a riot and you ain't even close to him. And of course he's going to complain that you're his bodyguard and you weren't even by him. Yeah. And he was right. In both cases, he was right. And that's why it's important that you start to understand this. So let's talk about let's finish this up real quick. So let's just say, right, you're in a field at a peaceful rich guy event, rich girl event. You got a very billionaire female you're doing security for. You've got 4 people. You're in a diamond, right? Your principle's right here. Theory is you're walking that way. Well, in reality, as you're at these things, you're not guiding. It's not like that K diamond on that arrival where we're guiding the person into a meeting. They're walking wherever they're walking, and you are simply following them. So this person and his friends and guests, and however big that is, could all of a sudden be walking, and you're all walking this way, and you're in your perfect diamond, and your whole world is great and covered, and all of your areas are covered, and all of a sudden, we're going to go over here, and they could just jot off in this direction. That's all fine and well. That's an easy one, right? You're in this diamond. You're all just going to start going that way. That's simple. You don't need to, well, I'm the point, so I need to move over here, and we're all going to rotate. You don't need to do that. I don't even care. Let's forget that. Let's say he goes in this direction. Again, you still have a box. You still can have 360 degrees. You can just stay in your box and walk that way. Your areas of responsibility changed a little bit, but not even too much. Everything is covered. Everything is good. You don't want to be obvious out there running around trying to get in the right position. 360. let's say that blah 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 blah. Let's say it's a two-man detail, and you're the AIC. Your other guys up here. You're doing that slant. You're walking this way. You've got the principal. She's a billionaire. She's got her little boyfriend over here. A couple of friends over there. They're walking. They're sipping wine. It's a wine festival at a fairgrounds. You're back here being low key. You don't have your 511s on. You don't have your suit on. You're not wearing your Oakleys. You don't want to stand out. And so they all of a sudden decide they just need another glass of wine. They're going to do a U-turn. You know, this guy's got to constantly be looking behind him to make sure he catches that U-turn or head on a swivel. Right? Because you're not going to get on the radio, turn around. You're not going to do that. You're probably not going to have it. He's going to know it because he's a smart guy. You guys are just going to turn around. And just because I'm the AIC and I was back here in a modified Old Faithful, because I'm way back, I'm not right up on him, I'm not going to try to loop around and say, well, because I'm the AIC, I need to be back over here behind him. I'm not going to do that. We're going to turn around. I might move up I might speed it up a little bit. He might speed it up a little bit to close that detail up, but he doesn't want to be close. And that we're good. We're good to go. We're walking along, and all of a sudden, they bang a left. They decide there's a tent over there. They want to go check it out. They bang a left. Again, we're all right. I mean, we're all right. Our areas of responsibility just change. We can stay right in this position. We can just walk. We're kind of to the sides of them. Maybe I slow it down a little bit and make it symmetric because I am a little OCD. Maybe he speeds it up a little bit. But we can just walk in that and move in this direction. We have a flank. We're still, again, it's the only thing that's changed here is our area of responsibility. We don't need to look like morons bumping into each other, trying to get into our right spot. If we wanted to, if we're going to be walking for 10 miles, we're, in a parade, and if we're going to be walking forever, maybe we like our other spot better. This might be better anyways if we're in a parade, right? Because now we're flanking them, because all of the threats would really come from the sidewalk anyways. The police have the street cleared. So this might be the better spot anyways, but if for whatever reason we decide it's not the better spot and we want to be in that original spot, I'm just going to slowly fall back to this spot. He's just going to slowly and casually move back up and get in this spot, and then we're back in our original spots. That's how all of that's going to go down. It's how it's going to go down with the press when you're in a parade, when you're in a riot. It's how it's going to go down with a rich person at a horse race, at a festival. It's how it's going to go down with a CEO, because these CEOs always aren't just going to go where they want to go. You're going to be walking through a building, and all of a sudden the CEO is going to be like, oh, I got to go to the bathroom. And he's going to change his direction. I've had him bang a U-turn to go to a hot dog stand in D.C. because he wanted a pack of Lifesavers. Okay, and you're gonna, we haven't advanced that yet. You're not going. It's not cleared. Okay? You're not going to do that. You're going to turn around and follow your CEO to go get his pack of Lifesavers. And the next time you do security for this guy, you're going to have a pack of Lifesavers in your pocket because you're a professional. And you're going to say, well, you want Lifesavers? I got you. Guaranteed you're getting called back on that detail right there. Guaranteed you're getting called back on that detail right there. But other than that, if he changes direction, again, you're just gonna follow him, and you're gonna move, and you're gonna know that the only thing that changed at any point in any directional changes is your area of responsibility. And you're going to know that, yes, as their direction changed, you're constantly observing, orientating, right? And you're doing your threat assessment, threat analysis, risk analysis, and you're going to move again to be in the best position to be able to create distance and time. That's where you're going to position yourself, not in some textbook position necessarily. You're just flowing. You're smooth. You're working the principle. I think the real pros call it, and that's how you're handling all that. I think that was everything I wanted to say.